The cold metal of the handcuffs pressed against Marcus Ellison's wrist. He stood perfectly still, both palms flat on the marble counter, his rain jacket still damp from the rain outside. A police officer was preparing to arrest him in the lobby of the building he owned. Have you ever been threatened with arrest by someone who had no idea who you were, not just your name, but the fact that you owned every inch of the ground beneath their feet? That is exactly what happened here. But to understand how this moment arrived, we have to go back to earlier that morning. When Marcus Ellison walked through the front doors of his own building, a security guard named Lydia Vance made the worst decision of her career. "Hey, you see this guy?" she said to her colleague Derek Harlan, her voice carrying clearly across the lobby. "Watch him." She spoke loudly enough for the people nearest the desk to hear, loudly enough for Marcus, standing only 6 feet away in his rain jacket, still reaching for a badge that wasn't there. He heard every word. He didn't react. He simply walked toward the desk, both hands visible the way a person learns to do after a lifetime of entering rooms where others have already decided he doesn't belong. "Good morning," he said. "I forgot my badge today. Could someone call up to the 16th floor? My assistant can verify me in just a moment." Lydia looked at him the way people look at something they have already categorized. "Name: Marcus Ellison." Derek typed slowly. His eyes moved across the screen. Then he leaned toward Lydia without looking up. "Probably fake," he murmured, not quietly enough. Marcus heard that too. Lydia crossed her arms. Her voice rose, just enough to perform for the small audience already forming near the elevator bank. "Sir, this is a private building. People like you don't just walk in here and claim they own the place." Those 3 words hung in the lobby air like smoke. Marcus looked at her steadily. "Please call the 16th floor. Ask for Elena Voss." Lydia smiled the kind of smile that carries no warmth. "I'm not calling anyone for you." She turned to Derek as if Marcus were not standing right there. "They always have a name ready, don't they?" Derek let out a short laugh and reached for his personal phone. He angled it toward Marcus without being obvious and took a photo. The shutter sound was barely audible. He typed quickly and sent it. In the security team's group chat, 12 people in total. A photo of Marcus arrived with the caption, "LOL. This guy says he owns the building." Within moments, the replies began stacking up. "Sure he does. Classic. Should we call the ambulance?" Marcus didn't know about the chat. Not yet. What he knew was this: years earlier, he had founded this company with nothing more than a folding table and a lease on a small office in Charlotte. The building he now stood in carried his name on the deed. His signature was on the security firm's contract. His face appeared on the company website's homepage, centered beneath the words "Our Founder." Recently, he had switched security contractors. The new firm brought a new team, and Elena had told him the mandatory executive recognition training had not yet been completed. It was written clearly in the contract, page 4, section 2. So he had come in without his badge that morning on purpose, to see for himself. He simply hadn't expected this. Near the elevator, a project manager named Tyler Brooks slowed down. 6 years with the company. Recognition moved across his face like a shadow. He looked at the security desk, looked at Lydia, looked back at Marcus. Then he looked at the floor and kept walking. Marcus watched him go, said nothing, and filed it somewhere deep and quiet. Derek stepped out from behind the desk and planted himself between Marcus and the elevator bank. "Sir," his voice now carried a new edge, "I'm going to need you to step outside right now." "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said. "I've asked twice for a phone call to the 16th floor." That's all I'm asking. One phone call. Derek moved closer, close enough that Marcus could see the decision forming in his face, the calculation of a man who had decided the situation needed to be resolved physically before it grew complicated. He placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder, not hard, but deliberate, a clear push toward the door, visible to everyone watching. A woman near the elevator made a small sound. Someone else pulled out their phone. Marcus looked down at the hand on his shoulder, then lifted his gaze and met Derek's eyes directly. He said nothing. Something in that look made Derek pull his hand back. He didn't step away, but the hand fell. Lydia was already at the desk phone. "Yes, this is Ellison and Associates Lobby Security," she said, her voice businesslike and loud. "We have a trespasser refusing to leave. Need a unit at the main entrance." Every word aimed at Marcus like a dart. She set the phone down and looked at Derek with a small, satisfied smile. "Won't be long now." Derek smiled back. Officer Reeves came through the glass doors moments later, his partner behind him. Both scanned the lobby the way officers do, reading the room before anyone spoke. Lydia moved toward them immediately. "That's him," she said, pointing. "Walked in without ID. Refused to leave. Got physical with my colleague." Marcus hadn't touched a single person. Officer Reeves looked at Marcus. "Sir," hands on the counter. Marcus placed both palms flat on the marble, his own marble, chosen from a catalog in an architect's office years ago. "Can I ask what I've done wrong, officer? We'll sort that out. Don't move." The officer unclipped his handcuffs. The lobby went completely still, the kind of stillness where you can hear the air conditioning. The woman who had been recording tightened her grip on her phone, her hands trembling slightly. Lydia stood back, arms crossed, the posture of someone watching everything unfold exactly as planned. Derek stared at his phone as the group chat continued. The cold metal of the handcuff touched Marcus Ellison's wrist just as the elevator chimed. Elena Voss crossed the lobby without hurrying. In all the years Marcus had known her, he had never once seen her hurry. She moved with the particular calm of someone who had already solved every problem in the room and was simply arriving to confirm it. She saw the handcuff on his wrist. Her expression didn't change. She walked directly to Officer Reeves and placed a folder on the counter. "Officer," she said, quiet and precise, "the man you're handcuffing is Marcus Ellison. He is the founder and CEO of this company. He owns this building. I have the deed, the title registration, and his official company ID right here." Officer Reeves looked at the folder, then at Marcus. Something shifted in his face. Elena turned to the next page without pausing. "This is the security firm's contract." She tapped the signature at the bottom. "Signed by Mr. Ellison. Page 4, Section 2 requires that all personnel complete executive recognition training within the first week of the contract's commencement. Your team has been here for several weeks now. Has that training happened?" She looked at Lydia and held the gaze. Lydia opened her mouth. "Nothing came out. That's why they don't know who he is," Elena said simply, as if reading a weather report. "That's the only reason." Officer Reeves looked at the handcuff, then at Marcus. He removed the cuffs. Marcus straightened and rolled his wrist once, slowly. It was the only sign, in the entire ordeal, that any of it had cost him anything at all. He didn't speak for a moment. He looked up at the security camera in the corner of the ceiling. Its red light blinked steadily, recording everything. It had been recording everything from the beginning. "Elena," he said, "pull up the group chat." Lydia's head snapped up. Elena was already on her tablet. She found it within seconds, opened it, and set the device on the counter, the screen facing outward toward the desk, toward Derek and Lydia, toward the small crowd that had gathered. There it was, the photo of Marcus, the caption, the emojis, the replies. Should we call the ambulance? The lobby read it in silence. Marcus turned to Derek. You took that photo just minutes after I walked in. Derek's mouth opened, then closed. You sent it to 12 people on the security team. Marcus continued, his voice level. No theater, no performance, just a man stating facts. While I was standing at this desk asking for a phone call, he turned to Lydia, and you called me honey. He let the word sit for one long second in front of nearly 40 people. Lydia straightened. Something in her face tried to reassemble itself into dignity. Sir, I was. Marcus spoke one word, soft as a door closing. Don't. She stopped. Victor Langford, the operations manager of the security firm, the man whose signature appeared on the other side of that contract, appeared from the side entrance. He looked pale, moving toward Marcus with the desperate energy of a man trying to get in front of something he could already see coming. Mr. Ellison, his voice was stripped of everything it once carried. I take full responsibility for the training failure. That is completely on my firm, and I want you to know that I understand. Marcus said, It's in the contract. Victor swallowed. These are good people. He tried again. They have families. So do the people they humiliate. Marcus replied, No follow-up, no elaboration. Just that one sentence placed into the silence like something being entered into a permanent record. Victor closed his mouth. Marcus looked at Elena. 2 names. She was already typing. Derek Harlan, Lydia Vance. The badge reader on the staff door flashed red. Moments later, Derek reached for it out of habit, but his hand stopped an inch from the panel. He stared at it. His badge was dead. Lydia looked at her desk. Her computer screen had locked itself, a small padlock icon sitting in the corner. Small and final. She stared at it as if she couldn't quite make it real yet. Marcus turned to Nora Quinn, who had been standing in the same spot throughout the entire ordeal, quiet, her hands at her sides. You stayed out of it, he said. I saw that. It's noted. Nora nodded, her jaw tight. Marcus walked to the elevator. Elena followed. The doors opened, and they stepped inside. As the doors closed, the last thing visible was Victor Langford standing at the security desk, staring at the tablet screen still open on the counter, the group chat, the photo, the emojis, his firm's name on the contract beneath it all. Later, at the board meeting, Marcus mentioned the morning only in passing. Complete onboarding for the new security team. All of it. By the end of the week. I'll be checking personally. That was all. By lunch, the entire building knew, all 5 floors, all 380 people. No announcement, no email, just the way news moves through people who work in close quarters. Fast, quiet, unstoppable. What stayed with everyone wasn't the handcuffs or even the firings. It was the image of Marcus Ellison standing at his own security desk in his rain jacket, both palms flat on the marble, still and composed, while a police officer uncuffed him and a woman who had called him honey only a short time earlier stood just 3 feet away. Unable to say a single word, that image moved through the building like a current. Tyler Brooks, the project manager who had walked past without speaking, sat at his desk and stared at his screen for the rest of the afternoon. He thought about the moment he had made eye contact with Marcus and looked away. The choice that had taken less than a second, the kind of choice you don't recognize as a choice until later. when it's too late to make a different one. He didn't sleep well that night. Nora Quinn was moved to the 16th floor detail shortly afterward. Several months later, during her review, her supervisor slid a piece of paper across the desk. A note had been added to her file. Did not escalate. Forwarded group chat to evidence for HR before it could be deleted. Did the right thing when it was easier not to. Recommended for advancement. She read it standing in the break room and stood there for a long while, thinking about all the things she hadn't done that morning and understanding, perhaps for the first time, that sometimes the most important thing you do is the thing you choose not to do. That was the story. But before you go, I need to ask you something. You just witnessed all of it. You saw Derek place his hand on Marcus's shoulder. You saw Lydia call the police. You saw the handcuffs touch the wrist of the man who owned every inch of that building. And you felt angry. I know you did, because I did too. But there's one person in this story I can't stop thinking about. Tyler Brooks. He recognized Marcus, looked him straight in the eye, and then looked down at the floor and kept walking, not because he was a bad person, not because he agreed with what Lydia and Derek were doing, but because he was scared. Scared of trouble. Scared of being the only one standing up in a room where no one else was. And the question I want to ask you isn't about Lydia. It isn't about Derek. It's about Tyler. If that had been you walking through that lobby that morning, what would you have done? Would you have said something? Or would you have looked at the floor and kept moving, carrying that moment home with you, lying awake with it in the quiet hours of the night? Nobody answers that question easily. I don't either. But here's what I know for certain. Nora didn't do anything dramatic. She didn't confront anyone. She didn't make a speech. She simply refused to make things worse. And then, quietly, when no one was watching, she forwarded that group chat to HR before anyone could delete it. One small action. Nobody asked her to. Nobody knew she had done it. But it changed everything. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it just means not looking at the floor and walking away. If this story stayed with you, share it. Not because Marcus Ellison needs anyone to defend him, but because out there right now, there are people standing in their own lobbies with no cameras, no witnesses, and no clean ending like this one. And they need to know that someone sees them,